Okay, the last video presentation over political parties is going to be this one. What we're going to be focusing on here is the media. What we've been talking about in class and going over as we've been talking about this whole process of how do you go through the process of picking president. Of course, just real quick, we'll run. Okay, you got to make sure you get a good candidate. Okay, and we talked about that. Then we talked about the money, and we went over that pretty thoroughly. The third step then is going into the primary system and winning those primaries, winning those delegates in each state, and either it's a primary or a caucus, and we talked pretty thoroughly about how the primary system works. So hopefully you got that. Then you go to the convention. That's step 4. And at the convention, all those delegates come together. They one more time give out who they were voting for, and they add up the totals, and then you get one candidate for party A, one candidate for party B. If there happens to be a party C, you get one candidate for them, and then boom, you go into the general election. Now, in the general election, step 5 is that if you're going to win the presidency, you've got to then now have a good, strong ability to win the media. And you got to make sure the media is on your side. Now, you hear a lot of this talk about media bias, and you hear, especially on the Republican side, the conservative side, that all the media outlets out there are liberally biased and they favor the Democrats and they always blah, 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 blah. I don't buy it. I don't believe it. Fox News, which is the largest news organization on TV for cable, they are highly conservative, and pretty much all of AM talk radio that you hear, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, etc., are all conservative. Where there gets to be some liberal bias is newspapers. Newspapers, which is one of the lower types of news anymore, is still pretty much kind of, not altogether though, because you got the Wall Street Journal and others that are very liberal, or I'm sorry, very conservative, but that would be where it comes from. So, how does the media relate to political parties and the presidency? First off, the media has a really important, significant role in that they can take a no-name candidate and give them instantaneous popularity. Look at Barack Obama. When Barack Obama ran for president in 2008, before that, he wasn't this well-known guy. He was a senator from the state of Illinois. He had only been there in the Senate for just 2 years. Not very well known. Yeah, he gave a great speech at the Democratic Convention in 2004, but nobody really knew who the guy was. But all of a sudden, the media picked up on him, and boom, he became instantaneously popular. Now, that can go two ways. The media can give you power, and the media can take it away. If you end up doing something that the media is going to go after, it can destroy you. If you look today at President Obama, his popularity is not very high, and that is because the media has been doing a lot of bashing, with his Obamacare and other things. Now, are they lying? In most cases, the media doesn't lie. They fabricate things, which sounds like lying, but it's not. But they do, and a lot of times they can manipulate the truth a lot, and that does happen. In an election, how does this work? Is you got political ads, which we're going to go over some of these in class, image, structural, and then those free sound bites. This is Free sound bites is when the news media during their news broadcast shows the candidate, talks to the candidate, interviews the candidate, and the candidate doesn't have to pay for that. Of course, the problem, as we just talked about, is this idea of bias. And again, the fact and opinion can get back and forth on that. 50% of people polled think that the media is too biased towards the liberal side. 30% think it's too conservative. I tend to lean it more towards, I think the media, yes, it is in some cases liberal, sometimes it's conservative. But overall, I think the media pretty much goes after both sides, because the media is going to do what's going to give them the most amount of money. So if the media can blow out Barack Obama and rip him apart, and that's going to sell newspapers, that's going to get people to turn on the cable news channels, that's going to get people to listen to the internet websites and their programs, then they're going to do it. If they can rip apart the Republican side, they're going to do it. I don't think there is just a bias in the media that supports one side or the other. Some cases there is, but overall, no. Okay. So how does the candidate use the media? I just talked about how the media affects the candidate, but how can the candidate affect the media? One of the ways to do this for the candidate is to use what's called propaganda. That is ways to take a message and influence people's ideas, opinions, and actions, either for the candidate or against, depending upon how you use this propaganda. Candidates use these all the time. Here are the main types of propaganda techniques used. One is called glittering generalities. This is where you will see candidates do this a lot. They will come out and give a speech and they will give the words such as freedom and liberty and capitalism and a great democracy and we're the greatest nation on earth and we have the greatest fighting force ever and that we need to cut back on this wasteful spending. They will use words that have no real meaning to them, but they just sound good. And the problem is we buy into it. We will listen to these politicians blow off all these kinds of words for yah, 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 and they really don't say anything. There's nothing backing it up. There's no facts. There's no statistics to back up anything they're saying. Nothing. A lot of glittering generalities is used by politicians in order to get people to support them because they know that people are pretty ignorant. We're pretty dumb. We're pretty easy to follow along with. We're like sheep. And so they will use it. Card stacking is another one. This is where you actually do use facts to support your statements. However, you're only going to use those facts that helps you and you're going to hide the rest of them. So you could come out and say, hey, yeah, the Obamacare, it's a big waste going on and that the website doesn't work very well and that it's going to cause problems and this and that. And of course, Obama got blasted because of the fact that he said, if you like your insurance plan, you can keep it. Now there's people who are losing their insurance because the insurance they had was called junk insurance. It doesn't stack up to the qualifications that you have to have in order to be able to have insurance now. So those policies got thrown out. So people did lose their insurance. So what the Republicans do is they're come out saying, look at this, Barack Obama's lying. He told you could keep your insurance and you can't. Well, yes, the fact is, he did say that, and people did lose their insurance. So they are correct. That part of the fact is correct. But the Republicans are hiding the rest of the facts about the matter that the reason why those people lost their insurance is because their insurance was shit. It was crap. It was horrible. And basically nothing was being covered for these people. They thought they had good insurance, and they didn't. Now, if they go out and get insurance through Obamacare, there is qualifications, restrictions on what kind of insurance they can get, so that way they can make sure they're getting good insurance. But those facts aren't going to come out. Okay, the next one is plain folks. That is where the candidate comes out and tries to make the people think that they're just one of them, that they were born in a regular place, they lived in a regular home, they did every regular thing like all the rest of us, middle class people. And for the most part, most people who run for president of the United States, and there are some rare exceptions, are usually fairly well off, fairly rich. Mitt Romney is a great example of this guy. He tried to show that he was a good old plain folks dude. The guy is a multimillionaire. He's been a multimillionaire his whole life. His father was a multimillionaire. His father was a multimillionaire. So no, he's not like the average person. He probably has never really gone out and bought groceries himself. He's always had other people do things for him. So, again, politicians try to pull this off, but it doesn't work very well. Name calling is where you basically don't call someone an asshole or any of that kind of thing. Name calling is basically where a candidate goes out and tries to put a label on their opponent, such as the words liberal or radical, and they try to give these negative labels to their opponent, big spender, or someone who's going to take away your Social Security type thing. Bandwagon is the next one, and that is, you've heard of bandwagon before. It's very similar to where you get a team out there who isn't doing very well, but all of a sudden they start winning. And boy, everybody just jumps on the bandwagon there and they start supporting that team like they've been with that team forever. You got Florida State who won the NCAA, and all of a sudden you hear all these people, yeah, I'm, Florida State fan, whatever. And it goes back and forth like that. And as soon as the team starts losing, boom, you jump off of it and you're like, yeah, I really wasn't supporting that team in the first place. Bandwagon is just one of those things that politicians do because they want people psychologically. You don't want to be on the losing side, so you try to get everybody to jump on your team because you try to make them think that you're winning. The last one is called transfer, and that's where you basically, whenever you give a speech, whenever you're out there in front of the people, you make sure you have some kind of an American symbol with you. So you put as many flags up as you can. You put the Constitution, a copy of it sitting up there when you're giving a speech. You have all kinds of, red, white, and blue stars kinds of things all over on your stage when you're up there talking, because people will transfer the idea that you're a great patriot, you're a great American, so you're going to become a great president then. Advertising and campaigning is hugely important when it comes to the election system, and that's what we're gonna kind of get more into that. And we get back into class tomorrow, then we'll talk more about that one then. So that's the end of this presentation to now.